It feels weird not having to do videos on Saturdays. Finally, more time for art. Phew! So, we're midway through the season and DHX, or Hasbro, I'm not really sure who makes these calls, have decided to take a break before airing the rest of the season later this year. If I had to wager a guess, I'd say sometime after Friendship Games comes out. Maybe October or November. So I figured that since we have this extended break, now would be the perfect time for me to look back on the first half of Season 5 and see what I thought of this half season as a whole, going over both its high points and its low points. And at the end, I'll be listing all 13 episodes from least favorite to most favorite. So let's start with, well, the beginning. The cutie map was definitely a different kind of two-parter. We were brought to an entirely new location, where the locals weren't quite all there. This element was reminiscent of the Season 3 opener, but in this case, the main six have absolutely no idea what they came here to do, which gave a sense of mystery. Not only were the characters out of their element, but we, the viewers, were out of ours. Starlight Glimmer was also an interesting villain, with her basic character design being a breath of fresh air. She wasn't a corrupted alicorn, or an embodiment of chaos, or a raging she-demon, or the best thing since sliced bread. She was just a regular unicorn, and the simplicity of her design, ironically, makes her stand out amongst all the other villains. How she compares to the others in terms of favoritism? Well, we'll just have to wait until next week. Hint hint. This was also the first time where a main villain actually escapes, and given her recent cameo and what we've learned from Comic-Con, it's pretty much confirmed that she will come back. Not that it wasn't painfully obvious before. To me, this season had a more consistent start than Season 4. That's not to say that last season wasn't strong overall, but I feel that S4 didn't really get on its feet until Flight to the Finish, whereas this season hit the ground running. One thing that made S5 a little different from the previous seasons is that a lot of its episodes take us to other places in Equestria. Out of the 13 episodes that have aired so far, 8 of them travel to locations outside of Ponyville, whether it's a familiar setting like Canterlot, or brand new places like Griffinstone. Even in cases where the episode in question wasn't that impressive, this element of travel gives us a clearer view of the world of MLP, and with the cutie map being a thing, I'm sure we'll see more of it in the future. Speaking of said map, we still don't know much about it, even as we're approaching the latter half of the season. If it continues to send the main six in groups of 2 like it did in the Griffinstone episode, we can assume that we'll get 2 more episodes with it, followed by the season finale where it sends all 6. Out of the 4 remaining members, the 2 possible pairings I'd like to see would be Applejack and Fluttershy, since they have an interesting dynamic that's been pretty underutilized so far, or Applejack and Rarity because OTP. This season also had the first Discord episode that I love from beginning to end, and that may change its position on my top 10 characters list when I update it at the end of the season. Hell, I might even have to extend it to a top 15. And possibly the most surprising part of this season, Pinkie Pie isn't annoying. I know, shocking ain't it? Not just her main appearances, but even her appearances as a side character have been tolerable, and sometimes they're actually funny. This all leads up to the first Pinkie Pie episode that I actually liked, Party Pooped. But of course, the one Pinkie episode I like, the majority of Pinkie fans hate. Figures. I can't really say that I like her yet since we have half a season left to go, and my cynical side is expecting Pinkie to revert back to her old insufferable self, but fingers crossed that this doesn't happen. Of course, every season has its low points, but thankfully, in this case, they're few and far between. Unfortunately, Spike is not off to a good start, with Princess Spike pretty much playing it safe with its portrayal of him. Hopefully we'll get at least one more episode with him that's on the level of Inspiration Manifestation or pretty much any Spike appearance in Season 2. Then there's Appaloosa's Most Wanted and Thanks for the Memories. They both had problems that really dragged them down, and unfortunately their strengths couldn't completely make up for that. Appaloosa's Most Wanted made the idea of cutie marks even more confusing than it already was, and it reverted back to the type of CMC portrayal that was seen in Season 1. Thanks for the Memories problem wasn't as bad, but Rainbow's crying scene suffered from a bad case of trying too hard. And while other episodes had this problem as well, they had enough strengths to make up for it, while this one, to me, didn't. These episodes were both well-intentioned efforts, but unfortunately they did not work out that well. Speaking of well-intentioned efforts that didn't work out, Slice of Life. In my review of the episode, I said that I gave it a break because it was the 100th episode, but now that the event has come and gone, break's over. I know people keep saying it's a love letter to the fans and whatnot, but here's the thing. Personally, if I were writing a love letter to someone that I knew, I would actually put effort into it and pour my heart out into the letter instead of throwing in a bunch of things that I think she'd like since she's shown interest in it. Because where's the love in that? Keep in mind, I don't think that this is the worst episode the show has ever done. I can name a few off the top of my head that I put below this one, but it's still an episode that I'd skip or at least fast forward past all the bad parts and get to the few good parts. Even with all the low points in mind, I still think we've had a good season so far, which brings me to the final list. With the cutie map being a two-parter, I'm counting it as one episode, which conveniently gives me an even number of 12 episodes total, with 3 tiers of 4 episodes each. Going from lowest to highest, we've got the lower tier, with Slice of Life, Appaloosa's Most Wanted, Princess Spike, and Thanks for the Memories. At the middle tier, we have The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone, Castle Sweet Castle, Party Pooped, and Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep. Finally, we have the top tier with the Cutie Map, Make New Friends But Keep Discord, Amending Fences, and Bloom and Gloom at the very top. Season 5 has been a fun ride so far, and when the second half airs later this year, I'm looking forward to what it will bring us. So what do you think about Season 5? How would you list the episodes from worst to best? Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Tumblr, and consider supporting me on Patreon or commissioning me for art via PayPal. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.